the hustle culture that I was raised in is actually not effective at all. And since this is a founder's life, I hope that somebody that needs to hear this really hears this. When you rest and you restore and you keep your brain sharp and you sleep and you run and you eat good food and you're off your devices, you show up like 10x what you could ever show up as from a place of depletion. I have to go recharge. And I don't think that anybody is immune to that. You will break at some point, and I'm trying to keep that away. I want to be able to show up from a place of restoration, not a place of depletion.
Welcome to A Founder's Life. I'm your host, Leo Gestetner, and on this show, we dive into the real stories behind the highs and lows of entrepreneurship and how we pursue a more balanced and meaningful life along the way. This podcast is sponsored by Thanks, helping founders like us scale with reliable remote talent. Email founders@thanks.com, that's THANKZ.com, with the subject line A Founder's Life to receive preferred pricing. Now, I'm excited to be joined today by Stacy Ennis. Stacy, thanks for joining. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Leo. I know we've been planning for this for several months, so it's exciting to get to finally talk with you. I am a book strategist and book coach. I have a small team of amazing humans that guide authors through the transformative journey of authorhood. And I niche in business, leadership, social equity, health and wellness, and science and personal development.
Would you like to sort of introduce a little bit about what your journey brought you to where you are today? So what you've been up to, and also a little more about what your business is doing for your clients as well.
I like to say that my journey started at the age of 7 when I fell in love with the Chronicles of Narnia. I read that series when I was in 2nd grade and never looked back. Books basically became my life. I ate them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I started writing that same year, started writing poetry, and just really pursuing the written word. From my elementary years on into high school, we had electives that I could take in writing. So I did as much extra devouring of the written word and learning how to write as I could, went on to get my bachelor's and master's in writing. Along the way, I moved around the world. I lived in the Dominican Republic. I lived in Vietnam and eventually came back to the US where I grew my business. So I started actually as a freelance travel writer, thinking that that was a really great way to make a living. Just newsflash. It's not. There's a lot of exposure and not a lot of money usually involved in that career path. And eventually, through some different relationships that I built along the way, I got connected with a publisher, started editing books, really trained as a book editor, started ghostwriting for a Nobel Prize winner in medicine. I also ran Sam's Club's Healthy Living magazine, which reached around 11 million people. I was executive editor of that publication. And I just kept working in these two industries, in magazines, in books. Eventually, as career paths do, I pivoted a little. So I went from editing books into not just ghostwriting content, but ghostwriting books. And then from ghostwriting, I then moved into coaching and then started developing a system that I guide authors through to write their books. And I'm a little different from a lot of people in this industry because I niche in writing. That is my entire area that I focus on. Whereas a lot of other amazing people in the industry might take you from your idea all the way to publish. My entire focus is on writing a great book. And when you write a great book, it becomes a shelf-stable business sustainability tool. Of course, you have to position that book appropriately so it aligns with your business and brand goals. And then you have to do the deep work. And this is where I really get to work with people who desire to truly go through the experience of writing a book. They want to move through that with intention. They want to labor over the words and they want to write this book and really go through that journey to find clarity, to write something they're deeply proud of. And then on the other side of it, they get now this amazing tool that's out in the world, sharing their message, their story, and helping grow their business and their brand.
That sounds fun. My experience on books, first of which is for my father, for his 80th. We gave him a present of a book, and it's this company in the UK who they write your life story. So they interviewed him and like a lot of backwards and forwards, and they sort of got a book of his life story, and he loves it. So
that's such a nice gift. I love that. What a thoughtful present to give your father.
Yeah, it was fun. Fun for him, fun for the grandkids as well, to sort of learn a little more about grandfather. Yeah, so that was fun. And I am planning to write a baby book. I say a baby book because it won't actually be a ton about me. It's more about the idea I have is actually the guests on the podcast. Interviewed over 80 people now, and I think it'll be fun to do a chapter on different people. Yeah, so that's on my list of things to look at. And talk a little bit about family, how family looks for you.
Well, I have a bit of a non-traditional family life. My husband stays home with our children, and he has been home for over 12 years now, edging up on 13 years. He does all the grocery shopping and the cooking and most of the shuttling kids to and from school. He holds the fort down when I'm traveling, meeting with clients or traveling to speak. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic because I was raised to follow a pretty traditional family path. So we've had to kind of navigate what it looks like to have a family situation that doesn't have a blueprint. We've had to build our own blueprint. What I would say about the way that I work is I built this business that I have the joy and honor of running today to work with really to actually create the life that I want for myself. So as I was in the really early days of business building, I had a vision for the family life that I wanted. I wanted to be abroad. I wanted to be traveling. I wanted to be living full on. I did not want to default into a path that somebody else chose for me. I really wanted to design my own life. And that's the life we're living now in Portugal, in southern Portugal. And it doesn't mean that I'm perfect in any like I'm not a perfect person. There are times when work can get busy, overtake some things in family life, but I very, very rarely miss something my kids are doing. It's been such a few number throughout the years that my kids vividly remember the times that I didn't make things at their school because it's only been a handful. And I remember too, and I really love that. I love that I get to be present for their lives.
I think there's nothing quite like that. I think being able to make that time, being able to be present at the important times. The things you miss don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It's the things they'll remember is all those times you are present, and being present for them. I say that being someone whose kids are a little older now. And talk to us what health looks like for you.
Health is, for us, absolutely foundational to our entire life as a family. I have a child who has a lot of medical needs, started when he was 18 months, actually when he was 8 months, worsened when he was 18 months. He's now 10. And so, I've had edging up on a decade of navigating a lot of health challenges for him. What that looks like for us is I'm an athlete. I just did my first ultra marathon. It was kind of a disaster, but I finished it. So now I need to redo. I need to go figure out what my next one is. My husband is a endurance cyclist. So he's out racing and out just crazy gravel cycling. And we eat pretty much everything straight from scratch, whole foods. My husband literally makes our hot sauce and, he's a sourdough guy and we don't really eat anything out of packages. It's really a very nourishing and very active lifestyle. And what's been amazing is that we were always kind of a healthy family, but it was probably about 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago that we completely reset our food culture in our family. And the health changes that I saw in my entire family were so incredibly profound. And even you can look at photos of my child before and after, and the drastic physical changes, but also his development and how he has thrived, because we have kind of gone, I would say, a little extreme with food, but we also eat the best food of anybody I know. Our food is amazing, and that's all thanks to my husband. He's the one. He's the one that makes it happen for sure.
And I think it sort of helps based on where you are.
Oh yeah. Yeah. For sure. I mean, it's interesting whenever we travel back to the US, our options are Trader Joe's. Where's our farmer's market? We pick up, we've actually become friends with the farmer that we buy from. We see him every Saturday. We get a big bin of all of our produce for the week, wash all of it, prep it, so that's all. I feel like we have a good flow now, how we shop and how we keep really healthy food prepped all the time. But it is also a huge effort. And I think unless you have a need like we did to really look at every aspect of your life and go, how can I make my child healthier? What things am I not doing? And you realize that food can be so healing. Then you have this drive to do it. It's nice that we also have the access to be able to get fresh, organic, literally from the farm to our house. It's amazing. I will never take that for granted.
Maybe not everyone has the necessity to do it, but everyone will benefit from it.
Yes. When you're the parent going through this with your kid, you also, I think that parents that are changing their kids' lifestyle and their diet should also participate in that, because I think that that's respectful to the child as they're kind of learning and navigating a new food culture in the family. And that also meant I went from, because some of our food is meat-based, which I was a vegetarian for 13 years. And so I also transitioned out of being vegetarian through this process, which has been actually really tough. But I feel better than I have actually ever felt in my life now. And I think it's just because I'm not eating a lot of meat, but I'm getting enough protein, I'm getting enough nutrients, and that's helping me be a better, book strategist and mom and friend and human.
It fuels us. So yes, if you put junk in, then you can't expect to be performing, whether it be physically or mentally. And what do you like to do for fun?
Well, this might sound boring, but I love running for fun. Actually, that's one of my favorite things to do when I want to go enjoy myself, is to go on a run, because running can be extremely adventurous if you do it right. Like, there's so many adventures that you can have on a run. And I read as well, which might not be very surprising to anybody. And then I'm always taking up, I try to challenge myself with new hobbies. So last year it was learning piano. This year, I wouldn't say this is fun, but I'm back in Portuguese classes. And then I'm just always up for a good time. So I'll go ziplining with my kids. We have a zipline park right by our house. I will, I'm the parent that joins in at athletic day in the parents race, and I'm a little competitive, so I'll jump in there. I am always up to have fun and jump in, and I try to stay childlike in that way, because I think life is way more fun.
Perfect. Yes. I generally hang around with people younger than me, not older, because
My kids are
more
much
fun.
younger, so that works out perfectly.
Yeah, and I'd agree with you completely. Running, I started the day today with a good run. I think there's nothing quite like it.
It's so
And actually, a
fun.
bunch of my journey is based around running, because I got the marathon. I did Berlin, and then I've got Tokyo and London and Chicago this year, and
Amazing.
then so it does give you sort of those places to be.
That's cool.
And then how does a balanced life look for you? And it sounds like you have got a pretty balanced life. So how does that work? The overall balance?
Yeah, it's interesting as a parent with kids that are still in the house, because I think you can always try to strike a balance, but then things always just happen. Your kids get sick, or, there's something that comes up. We're all human, and we can try as we might to have the most balanced life, and that's not always practical 12 months out of the year. But I would say that the vast majority of the year, when we don't have sickness or family emergencies or things like that, I have an incredibly balanced life. Exercise almost every day. I eat really well. I get 8 hours of sleep most nights, sometimes even a little more. I read. I have also reignited some gratitude journaling and mindfulness in the morning. I think that is a very intentional choice to create space to have that balance. And for me, what I've found as well, and there's good science to back this up, actually, that the hustle culture that I was raised in is actually not effective at all. And since this is a founder's life, I hope that somebody that needs to hear this really hears this. When you rest and you restore and you keep your brain sharp and you sleep and you run and you eat good food and you're off your devices, you show up 10x what you could ever show up as from a place of depletion. So for me, that looks like taking about 8 to 10 weeks off a year fully. It looks like all the things that I already mentioned. And it also looks like paying attention to how I'm feeling. I'm a pretty hard charger. I can show up with a ton of energy. And I also know that I cannot do that, 52 weeks out of the year. I have to go recharge. And I don't think that anybody is immune to that. You will break at some point, and I'm trying to keep that away. I want to be able to show up from a place of restoration, not a place of depletion.
That's a great way to look at it, and it makes complete sense. We all need to recharge in whatever way that is. I definitely do recharge from going out for a run.
Me too.
As I'm sure you all know, it's very meditative, and especially a longer run actually feels great.
Yeah.
I recharge from spending time with friends and family. Recharge can take different shapes for different people. And what has been a pivotal moment in your life?
I think that moving to the Dominican Republic when I was 23, right out of finishing my bachelor's degree, saying no to I think 3 different full funding offers to graduate school and making a choice to just move to this island that I'd never visited before. I really changed a lot as a person during that year and a half-ish that I was there. I developed true empathy and understanding for other people. I think I was very, I come from, we call it Whiteaho. It's like 87% white. It's very affluent. I was very much in a little bubble of people that looked very much like me, had about the same amount of money, had a lot of similar life experiences, a lot of privilege. And then suddenly I'm on this amazing island that the DR shares with Haiti. I was there during the Haiti earthquake, and I suddenly saw what the real world looks like. These children washing. I remember this child washing a cut on his hand. He was bleeding in the gutter. And I remember thinking, wow, I didn't know this existed. And so I stopped judging people, actually, when I lived there, because I realized that a lot of the culture I was raised in was very judgmental of other people, judged whether they were working hard enough or leeching the system, or they should just buck up and deal with it, and they didn't really ever acknowledge that people have real challenges that they'll never understand. And getting the opportunity to both be in the very privileged group, very the 1% in the DR, which was the group I worked within as a school teacher when I was there, and also befriending our fruit vendor and really hearing his story and really seeing that people don't understand other people's perspectives and that I should never come in from a place of assuming that I understand. It's actually allowed me to have empathy also politically in a very divisive time in the US, and to show up as somebody that I think is very safe for people to talk to, because I will listen and I will share my opinion and perspective, but I try to do it in an invitational way so I can understand other people. And I think that if I hadn't have lived there, I don't know if I ever would have developed that side of myself.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to an aspiring entrepreneur?
I think the thing that I would really encourage anybody who's dreaming of starting a business is to actually start with a vision of the life that you want first, and then explore how your business idea could get you to that life, and build a business that supports the life that you dream of. Because I had such a clear vision of the life that I wanted from a really early age, I made so many decisions to create the business I have that is fully remote. I started my business in 2009 as a remote business, and I had a lot of opportunities to grow roots, especially we were in Idaho for 7 years. And I very intentionally chose not to target the local market there, because I knew that if I did that, I was creating a business that wasn't going to support me leaving and traveling and moving. And so having a really clear vision of my life informed and still informs all of my business decisions. And I think that is a really also intuitive and anchored way to build a business that is a great business that gets you to the life that you want. Isn't that what we all want at the end of the day, is an amazing life?
That's I absolutely love that. And I think it's to be so purposeful, so conscious about what you wanted to achieve so early on in your business is unusual. And I think it's correct. It's allowed you to support the life you now have.
Yeah.
So how can people find you?
Well, I'm on, everywhere. You can Google my name, Stacy, just with a Y, no E, Ennis, stacyennis.com. I'm also on Instagram. I talk a lot about my life here in Portugal on Instagram. And on LinkedIn, I publish a lot of content around book writing. I provide a lot of resources. I also have a podcast called Beyond Better, where I talk about building a life you love. And I also talk book writing, publishing. So I have a lot of authors on there and aspiring authors that listen. And that's me. You can find me all over the place.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us today.
Leo, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation. I appreciate you having me on.
And thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, and please leave a review.